Platonic cuddling has given me this sense of expansion and abundance that I didn't have beforehand. It's made me more open and accessible to others. It's expanded my awareness as to what's going on within me. It's also made me more courageous in terms of asking for what I want and desire, and being more resilient when my desires and wants aren't fulfilled.
Growing up in the religious South, where you were analyzed for hugging someone for too long, or being with men who just assumed that all affection equals the prospect of sex, it was life-changing to just allow myself to touch and be touched platonically and non-sexually in a safe community. Where I used to feel depressed and anxious, so much growth has happened from being held by friends.
Raise your hand if you've hugged someone in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I see most of you, that's good. All right, you can keep your hand up if that hug lasted for a full minute. All right, I see about 40%. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. Now, keep your hand up, and I know this is a little extreme, keep your hand up if that touch lasted for a full hour and it did not turn into something sexual. Yeah, Now imagine that you didn't even have that first hug. That the only human touch that you shared was being given change by a cashier, shaking someone's hand, or going to the doctor. No personal, attentive touch for months. Think about how that might affect someone's psyche. I have a client in his 50s whose husband passed away a few years back, and once he was gone, he couldn't find human touch without it turning into something sexual. Intentional cuddling filled a gap that was missing in his life. Without it, he'd have to resort either to loneliness or to unwanted sex. That is one of the reasons why intentional cuddling was created. Non-sexual, consensual touch. Touch is a basic human need. We don't often think or talk about it, but it's crucial to our well-being. I could start explaining about how touch releases oxytocin in our system. It reduces cortisol, activates our parasympathetic system, which allows us to relax. But I can sum all that up just by saying touch feels good, and it's good for us. We need it for our physical and mental well-being. People find themselves happier, calmer, and content after cuddling. Some report that it helps them fight off insomnia, relieve their anxiety, and alleviate depression. It might not be a cure-all miracle pill, but it truly does help. Our society equates touch to sex. Once we start talking about touching someone, we immediately think about sex. Now, sex is great. I'm all for it. It's wonderful. But if sex is your only way of receiving human touch, then you're missing out on some wonderful things in life. When we decouple touch from sexuality, we allow ourselves to find peace, to take ourselves more lightly, and to enhance our relationships. Platonic touch allows women and gender non-conforming people to feel safe enough to connect more easily with others. For men, getting comfortable with platonic touch allows them to let go of social stereotypes and connect to their true selves. I started working as a professional cuddler with a company called Cuddlist because of touch. I've always been told that I give the best hugs, and if only they could be bottled. So I wanted to share that touch with people who really needed it. But once I started working as a one-on-one cuddler and running cuddle parties, I found, I know, right? I found that the benefits to practicing platonic touch go way beyond just our physical and mental health. It teaches us to communicate consent. Let me show you what I mean. I want to play a quick game with you. So I'm going to ask you all for a hug, and I want all of you to answer me with a resounding no. All right, think we can do it? Let's try it out. Can I have a hug? No! Thank you. That was excellent. Yeah, way to go. All right, congratulations. you have just practiced consent. This short exercise is the foundation of the work that I do. Without consent, we can't have safety. Without safety, we can't share touch. Participating in intentional cuddling trains our consent skills. It makes us better at saying yes and no, receiving yeses and no, saying what we want or don't want, and listening to what other people want. That hug exercise we just did is actually called the no exercise. It's called that because it allowed you to practice rejecting someone, and it allowed me to practice being rejected by someone in a safe environment. How many times have you been afraid of saying no to someone, so you just did not speak your mind? I wish I felt more comfortable in getting a no when I was a short, chubby, and unpopular 14-year-old. I remember going up to Michelle Goldstein. She was just a tall, beautiful, popular girl in my class, and I wanted to ask her out for our school dance. The look of rejection in her eyes was so devastating that it took me over 2 years to ask someone out again. Rejection feels so searing to us that we go out of our way to not hear no again, and we just stop asking. Rejection is hard, but I'd much rather receive an honest no than a yes you don't really mean. If I ask you, would you like a hug? And you answer me with a hesitant, that's okay. That's already enough for me to take that as a no. A maybe is not good enough for me. I want your hell yeah. The word consent means agreement, but I don't want your agreement. I'm interested in what you want. I want you to be active in your choices. Now, what do I want can be one of the hardest questions we ask ourselves. Our culture, our media, friends and family all tell us that we should want certain things. Intentional cuddling helps us figure out what we actually want and communicate it. I like to say that consent is like a muscle. The more we practice it, the better we get at it. So how do I teach people about these wonderful concepts? Why, I trick them, of course. So I run Cuddle parties, which are a 3-hour event that start off with an hour where we discuss the rules of Cuddle Party and practice consent, like we just did. After that, people have a chance to cuddle or not, whatever they like, they can choose. What I try to do is I try to appeal to people's want of sharing touch, and then I sneak in some quality consent education on them. So I believe touch lets us know what we want because it's so visceral. We know immediately in our bodies whether we are experiencing wanted touch versus unwanted touch. Let's do this. Close your eyes and imagine that I really was standing in front of you and I was asking you for that, really asking you for that hug. Would you like a hug? Can you feel that sensation in your body? You already know whether you truly want that hug or not. Now all that's left is for you to communicate your answer. You can open your eyes. Thank you. So if platonic touch is so great, why aren't we doing more of it? Well, when I read the online comments regarding a recent article about platonic cuddling, and I know I shouldn't read the comments, I see the overwhelming, hateful responses just for the mere concept of cuddling. And that's exactly the problem. We've been taught to fear touching one another, and people lash out when they're afraid of something. So how can we help people overcome these fears? In one word, safety. This can only work if we create a safe place for people to take risks. We like to say that a cuddle party is a comfortable place to feel uncomfortable. I find that it leads to unthinkable situations. Men, can you imagine not being devastated by a rejection, but actually being happy about it? Women, Can you imagine sharing touch with a man and not even being concerned that it would turn into something sexual? Safety is what is lacking in today's social landscapes. While our media pushes unbased fear and hatred, the Me Too movement is actually really showing us just how dangerous the world is for women. In this kind of landscape, it's time for us to step up and make a change. I believe that intentional cuddling could be a good step in that change. Providing a way for men to not be driven by sexual motives could be truly liberating. It can be earthquaking for a man to be in this kind of space and discover all of a sudden that he's been told his whole life that he should want sex when what he really needed was a nurturing hug. I believe we can shift our society towards better and safer touch. But that would require you to let your guard down, and there should be a safe place for you to do that. Imagine what it would be like to ask for what you truly want more often. I invite you all to practice your yeses and your nos. I invite you to seek more platonic touch with your friends, family, and loved ones. And maybe next time we meet, you'll keep your hand up a little longer. Thank you. Hold on. Would you like a hug?
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.